Right, so we're diving deep into 5G today, and
Mm.
you know,
Mhm.
you've given us a fascinating collection of articles and notes.
Yeah,
It's way more than just faster downloads, right? It's a whole new
absolutely.
reality taking shape.
Yeah.
We've got technical specs, social commentary, and even some seriously mind-bending theories to unpack.
It is, it really is interesting to see this technology kind of sparking this much larger conversation about the future of humanity in general.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to kind of unpack all of that.
Okay.
We'll break down what 5G is, how it works, and then explore the ripple effects
Right.
it could have on our lives or technology, and maybe even our understanding of existence.
It seems like we're really on the edge of something here, and it's critical that we understand
Yeah.
both the potential and the possible risks.
Okay, let's start with the foundation. Looking through what you sent over there,
Mm.
sort of be three core features that make 5G stand out
Right.
from previous generations.
Yeah, the sources pretty consistently emphasize speed responsiveness and connectivity as the...
Yeah. As the cornerstones of this 5G revolution.
Oh, all right, so let's talk speed. We're talking downloads 100 times faster than 4G.
Wow.
Instead of just imagining streaming 8K movies, think about what this means for you personally. Instant access to massive files,
Right.
working remotely without lag. Even holographic video calls could become commonplace.
Oh.
Your data needs could be met anywhere, anytime.
Yeah. It really has the potential to completely reshape how we interact with the digital world.
Yeah.
And I mean, with that much speed, you might never need a wired internet connection again.
That's a huge shift.
Yeah.
Next, there's ultra-low latency,
Right.
meaning lightning-fast response times. It's what makes things like real-time gaming, self-driving cars,
Hmm.
and even remote surgery possible.
It really opens the door for that kind of world where the machines can communicate with each other
Yeah.
almost instantaneously.
And finally, we have massive device connectivity. We're talking over 1 million devices per square kilometer.
Which sets the stage for a world where pretty much everything is online, constantly collecting and sharing data.
Mm-hmm.
This is the true Internet of Things we've been hearing about.
This is the one that I think is probably the most transformative just because it creates this network where nearly every object is online.
Right.
And that obviously raises questions about privacy and security
Yeah.
and just how our relationship with technology is going to evolve.
Okay, so we've got the what of 5G.
Right.
But how does this futuristic tech actually work?
It's not magic, but it is pretty ingenious.
Yeah.
The material you've shared gets into some really fascinating details about how 5G achieves these breakthroughs.
Right. One key is using higher frequency signals,
Mm-hmm.
which allow for faster data transfer. But these signals have a shorter range,
Right.
meaning we need a lot more base stations.
Yeah.
Those little antennas that send and receive signals. We're talking potentially a base station on every street corner.
Yeah, that's a good way to visualize it. And, this denser network of transmitters has caused some concern about potential health effects.
Right.
But, your sources do point out that these signals are actually far weaker than those emitted by your home Wi-Fi router.
So it's less about the strength of each signal and more about just the sheer number of transmitters.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's a complex issue that definitely warrants further research.
Yeah.
And, thoughtful consideration.
Another fascinating detail I found was something called beamforming.
Right.
Instead of just sending out signals in all directions like older technologies.
Right.
5G uses targeted beams to send data directly to your device.
So think of it kind of like a spotlight versus a floodlight.
So it
Beamforming allows for a much more focused and powerful transmission,
Yeah.
boosting both speed and efficiency. I mean, it really highlights how different 5G is from previous wireless technologies.
So it's not just about blanket coverage, it's about targeted data delivery.
Exactly. Each device essentially gets its own dedicated data stream.
Okay, now things start to get really interesting.
Okay.
We've talked about speed and connectivity,
Right.
but the material you provided
Uh-huh.
suggests that 5G could have some truly mind-bending implications.
Yeah, the potential social and even philosophical implications are
Yeah.
significant.
For instance, there's this concept of virtualized personal computers.
Right.
Essentially, your individual computer could become obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
With 5G, we could all tap into a central supercomputer via the network.
Wow.
Imagine no more needing to upgrade your hardware.
It's a fascinating concept, and it's a very natural extension of cloud computing. I mean,
Great.
this could even democratize computing power, giving everyone access to the same high-level resources,
Yeah.
regardless of their individual hardware.
So instead of showing off your fancy new laptop, you're bragging about your ergonomic keyboard
Right.
designed for optimal hand health. Would that be a welcome change, or would you miss geeking out over hardware?
That's an interesting thought. It's certainly an interesting shift in perspective.
Yeah.
And it raises questions about, how we value technology
Yeah.
and the role it plays in our lives.
Right, because even though we could see incredible benefits in fields like healthcare education and scientific research, there are potential downsides too.
Right.
A world where everything is online, constantly collecting and sharing data, raises concerns about privacy and control.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine your smart refrigerator, your car,
Yeah.
your thermostat,
Right.
all potentially gathering and transmitting data about your daily life.
That's right. The source material raises some critical questions. Who controls this massive amount of data?
Right.
How is it used?
Yeah.
And what safeguards are in place to protect our privacy?
Yeah.
These are all issues we need to consider very carefully
Yeah.
as we move further into this hyper-connected future.
It's almost like a science fiction movie come to life.
It is.
And it's not all sunshine and roses.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember that technology itself is neutral.
Yeah.
It's how we choose to use it that determines its impact on society.
And the potential impact of 5G goes even further.
Yeah.
Some sources even suggest that this level of connectivity,
Right.
combined with advances in artificial intelligence, could lead to a situation where AI becomes so powerful that it essentially controls our reality.
Right. This brings us to that concept of the technological singularity, this hypothetical point in time when artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence.
Yeah.
And some experts believe 5G could accelerate our journey towards this singularity,
Yeah.
which some predict could occur as early as 2045.
Wait, 2045, that's only a couple of decades away.
I know.
What happens then?
Right.
Can we become pets to our robot overlords?
Well, the possibilities are both exhilarating and a bit unsettling.
That's putting it mildly. So we've gone from faster downloads to potentially sentient AI in the blink of an eye.
It's
Where do we go from here?
That's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve deeper into this idea of the singularity and examine what a future with superintelligent AI might look like.
Welcome back. Last time we covered a lot of ground, from the nuts and bolts of 5G technology to the potential rise of superintelligent AI. Now things are about to get even more interesting. We're going to explore some of the more mind-bending theories connected to 5G,
Okay?
like the idea that we might be living in a simulation.
It is a fascinating, if somewhat unsettling, proposition. And it is interesting how the material you shared links the advancement of 5G and AI to these age-old philosophical questions about the nature of reality itself.
Okay, let's dive into that. The source mentions a few things that make us question our reality. One is the vastness of the universe. It's so incredibly huge, and yet, as far as we know, we're the only intelligent life out there. That's where the Fermi paradox comes in, right?
Exactly. If the universe is as full of planets as scientists believe statistically there should be other civilizations out there,
Right.
but we haven't found any concrete evidence of them. So some people use this as a possible clue that our reality might be more limited than we perceive.
So maybe we're not alone, but we're somehow isolated within a specific section of the universe.
That's one interpretation. Another focuses on the possibility that our perception of reality is somehow constrained,
Right.
and that we might only be able to detect life that exists within the parameters of our own simulation, so to speak.
Okay, that's making my head spin a little. And then there's the whole thing about quantum mechanics.
Right.
I'll be honest, it's a bit over my head.
Yeah.
But the source suggests that the way particles behave at the subatomic level could be another sign pointing towards a simulated reality.
Well, think about it this way. Quantum mechanics suggests that reality isn't as fixed and predictable as we once thought. Particles can exist in multiple states at the same time,
Right?
and the act of observing them actually seems to influence their behavior.
Wow.
It's as if the universe is constantly making choices
Yeah.
based on what we're paying attention to.
So maybe the universe is less like a perfectly engineered machine and more like a video game.
That's a great analogy. And it brings us to another point raised by the source,
Okay.
the speed of light.
Ah, yes. The ultimate speed limit of the universe.
Yeah.
Nothing can travel faster than light,
Right.
no matter how much energy you throw at it. Why would that be a clue that we're in a simulation?
Imagine our universe as a massively complex computer program.
Okay.
The speed of light could represent a processing limit
Yeah.
for the system running that simulation.
Oh, I see.
It doesn't matter how advanced your in-game spaceship is,
Right.
it's still limited by the hardware running the game.
So the seemingly arbitrary constants of our universe, like the speed of light,
Right.
might actually be reflections of the computational limits of the system generating our reality.
That's one way to look at it. It's a perspective that challenges us to question the very foundation of what we perceive as real.
Okay. I'm starting to see how these pieces fit together. But let's get back to this idea of higher intelligence creating our simulated reality. Who are these beings? And what's their motivation?
Well, the source doesn't offer any specific answers. And that's where things get even more speculative. But there is one fascinating hypothesis, the idea that these beings exist in a reality where time flows much slower than in ours.
So they're experiencing time at a completely different rate? How would that even work?
Imagine their reality as a vast, slow-moving ocean, while ours is a fast-flowing river.
Huh?
For them, millennia might pass like a few moments. They might be using our simulation as a way to accelerate technological and evolutionary progress.
Hmm?
They set it in motion, observe the results over what feels like a very short time to them,
Yeah.
and then reap the rewards of whatever we create or discover.
So we're like their science project. They're just sitting back watching our civilization evolve, waiting for us to reach some predetermined endpoint.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? To think that everything we have accomplished,
Yeah.
all our struggles and triumphs, might just be data points in some grand cosmic experiment.
And does this mean we have no free will? Are we just playing out a script written by these higher beings?
That's a huge philosophical question, one that has been debated for centuries. Interestingly, the source offers a potential counterpoint to this idea,
Okay.
the concept of love.
Love. What does love have to do with a simulated reality?
The source proposes that love in its purest form might be something that transcends the limitations of our simulated reality.
Hmm.
It might be the key to breaking free from the constraints of our programmed existence,
Hmm.
the element that allows us to connect with something greater than ourselves,
Yeah.
perhaps even the creators of the simulation.
Okay, that's a bit more hopeful. So maybe love is the unexpected variable,
Right.
the one thing the simulators didn't account for.
Think of it like a computer program encountering an input it wasn't designed to handle.
Yeah.
Love, with its capacity for empathy, compassion, and selflessness, could be that unforeseen element that disrupts the system
Right.
and reveals its true nature.
I like that. But if we are living in a simulation, is there any way to know for sure? And what about this 2045 singularity event? How does that fit into this whole picture?
Those are questions we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive. We'll examine the potential signs of a simulated reality, the implications of the singularity, and what all this means for the choices we make in our lives.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So far, we've explored the potential of 5G technology, the possibility of a technological singularity, and even ventured into the mind-boggling realm of simulated realities. Now, let's bring things back down to earth, so to speak. Even if some of these wilder theories turn out to be true, we've still got lives to live in the here and now.
That's a really crucial point. The material you shared doesn't just present these ideas as, abstract concepts. It encourages us to consider the practical implications of these advancements and how they might influence the choices we make today.
Right, because even if we're living in a simulation, we've still got bills to pay, relationships to nurture, and dreams to pursue. So how does all this tie into our everyday lives?
It all comes down to making conscious, informed choices. For example, with 5G and the Internet of Things generating massive amounts of data about our lives, we need to be more aware of, who has access to that data and how it's being used.
Yeah, it's easy to just click accept on all those terms and conditions without really thinking about it. But maybe we need to be more mindful of what we're agreeing to. What steps can we take to protect our privacy in this hyper-connected world?
I think it starts with being informed. Understand the privacy policies of the apps and services you use. Look for companies that prioritize data security and transparency. And consider using privacy-focused tools and services to minimize your digital footprint.
So it's not about rejecting technology altogether. It's about using it wisely and setting boundaries.
Exactly. And the same principle applies to the development and use of artificial intelligence. AI has the potential to be an incredible force for good, helping us address challenges like climate change, disease, and poverty.
Yeah.
But it also has the potential to be misused.
We've all seen those dystopian sci-fi movies where AI turns against humanity. It's a scary thought, and it makes you wonder if we're creating the tools of our own demise.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. That's why it's crucial to prioritize ethical considerations in AI development. We need to make sure these systems are aligned with human values and used for the benefit of all, not just for profit or control.
So it's not just about making AI smarter, it's about making it better, more humane.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We need to focus on developing AI that enhances human capabilities, promotes fairness and equality, and respects human dignity. And remember that concept of love we discussed earlier? That might be the key to guiding us towards a more positive future with AI.
Right, that idea that love and compassion could be the unexpected variables that disrupt the system, so to speak. So how do we cultivate those qualities in a world that's becoming increasingly dominated by technology?
It starts with recognizing that technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. It's up to us as individuals and as a society to choose how we want to use it. We need to foster empathy and understanding, not just between humans, but also in our interactions with technology.
So it's not about fearing technology or rejecting it. It's about shaping it to reflect our values and aspirations.
Yeah.
But with all this talk about simulated realities and technological singularities, it's easy to feel like our individual choices don't really matter.
Yeah, that's where the material you shared offers a really powerful message of empowerment.
Mhm.
It suggests that even if we are living in a simulation, our choices still have meaning and impact. The very act of questioning, of seeking understanding, and of striving to make the world a better place, these are all expressions of our free will and our capacity for love.
So even if the game is rigged, we can still choose how we play it.
Exactly. We might not be able to change the rules of the game, but we can choose how we respond to those rules. We can choose to act with kindness, compassion, and courage. We can choose to connect with each other and build a world that reflects our highest values.
I gotta say, after this deep dive, I'm feeling a strange mix of emotions. A sense of awe at the possibilities, a bit of trepidation about the potential risks, but also a renewed sense of hope.
I think that's a perfectly natural response. We're living in extraordinary times, and the future is far from certain. But amidst all the uncertainty, there's also a tremendous opportunity to shape the world we want to live in. The choices we make today will ripple through time and influence the course of history, whether it's in this reality or in some other dimension we can't even fathom.
So we don't need to have all the answers. We just need to keep asking the right questions, keep learning, and keep striving to make a positive impact.
That's the spirit. Embrace curiosity, nurture your connections, and never underestimate the power of your individual choices. Even in a potentially simulated world, your actions have the power to create real change.
That's a great message to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of 5G and beyond. We hope you found it thought-provoking and inspiring.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring these ideas, share your thoughts, and never stop questioning the nature of reality itself.